It would be an 82-game schedule, an expanded playoffs of 14 teams, a universal DH. Schedules would be just division opponents and interleague teams located close by. They'd be played in stadiums that have local and state government approval. And the big one, regarding money, all revenue would be split 50-50 between owners and players. That is where this is going to get complicated. Tony Clark is the executive director of the Players Association. He told The Athletic, quote, "A system that restricts player pay based on revenues is a salary cap, period. This is not the first salary cap proposal our union has received. It probably won't be the last. The league is trying to take advantage of a global health crisis to get what they have failed to achieve in the past, and to anonymously negotiate through the media for the last several days suggests they know exactly how this will be received. None of this is beneficial to the process of finding a way for us to safely get back on the field and resume the 2020 season, which continues to be our sole focus." We have coverage of this here from our insider, Jeff Passan, and our buddy, Mark Teixera, who, of course, played a long career in the major leagues. Great to have you both. And, Jeff, I will start with you, because that was extremely troubling to read what Tony said. What are you hearing about how the money is going to play into this?
Greeny, this week is not going to be fun. And this is a consequence of an agreement in March that the union believes one thing and Major League Baseball believes another. Ultimately, it is going to come down to money, but I want to go to the end of this, because I think that's the important part. I want to go to what happens if money takes this whole thing off the rails and we do not have a baseball season. What you have is players who are not getting paid, players who are getting a year older, players who have free agency that's a disaster. You have owners who haven't made a cent of revenue this year. You have owners whose franchise values could go down. You have owners who might end up in bankruptcy having to sell their teams. Because of that, Greeny, because of those terrible outcomes if there is no baseball, I have a really difficult time believing that these two parties can't get together and figure out how to split a few $1 billion. Because isn't that what this comes down to? That we're in the middle of a global pandemic right now, and if millionaires and billionaires can't get together and figure out how to be just a little less rich, there's a really big problem with this sport that's going to chase it around for years and years to come.
I can put specific numbers to that. Baseball last year made $10.7 billion in revenue. The average player got paid $4.4 million. Mark Teixeira, obviously, if you were a player and you heard those words from the head of the Players Association, what would your reaction have been?
Well, first of all, I would thank Tony Clark because, he's our union leader. That's what we pay him to do. He's supposed to stand up for us and our salaries. That being said, this is unprecedented in the history of the Major League Baseball Players Association. And every other year, I would stand together and say, the owners aren't going to do this to us, and we're going to get paid our full fare. If I'm going to put myself out there, I'm going to get paid a full day's wage. The problem is that you have people all over the world taking pay cuts, losing their jobs, losing their lives, frontline workers putting their lives at risk. These are unprecedented times, and this is the one time that I would advocate for the players accepting a deal like this. A 50-50 split of revenues is not that crazy. If you really think about it and boil it down to what the players usually get from a revenue standpoint, it's actually lower than 50% of the baseball revenue for a full season. So if I'm a player, I don't like it, but I'm going to go do whatever I have to do to play, and that means taking this deal.
I guess I want to ask you both. Jeff, I'll start with you. Is there an understanding, as best as you can tell, of the extraordinary tone deafness of turning this circumstance into a fight over money? And it's the fact that they're millionaires and billionaires only makes it worse. But in a world where we have unemployment in this country that is reaching Depression-era levels, is there any understanding you have grasped from anyone of just how tone deaf that sounds?
Greeny, can I just address Tex before I answer that question? Because I'm fascinated to hear any player say that. Tex, you came up, I think Don Fear was the union leader when you were a rookie, right?
Yep.
And I think Michael Weiner,
here's the thing,
you were
Jeff.
around when Mike took over as well.
Yes. I was with Don and Michael, and here's the thing, Jeff. Like I said, in any other year, this would be a fight, and players would be right to fight. I think the Players Association has done a great job of sticking together. Owners are making money, players are making money. This has never happened in any of our lifetimes. Since the Spanish flu, over 100 years ago, players need to understand that if they turn this deal down and shut the sport down, they're not making a cent. Okay, so I'd rather make pennies on the dollar and give hope to people and play baseball than not make anything and lose an entire year of my career.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, and listen, that's not an entirely unreasonable position. I think you can do that, though, without accepting the 50-50 split. It's, listen, it's not a salary cap like Tony Clark said. But it is the salary cap's cousin, and it is part of salary cap systems. When you talk about revenue splits, you're talking about the NFL, you're talking about the NBA, you're talking about the NHL. Those are all cap systems. And Major League Baseball, remember, 26 years ago now, the union lost a World Series along with MLB fighting to avoid a salary cap system. You are correct that this is a pandemic. This is unlike anything we have ever seen before. But when a negotiation starts, Tex, you are going to start on one extreme and your opponent is going to start on the other extreme, and you come toward the middle. It feels like if you're the union right now, you're going to start on the other end where you're saying, we're not going to take a cut at all. We're going to get our full prorated salary like we thought we negotiated in that March agreement. And if you want us to come off of that, you're going to have to come toward us first.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.